There was one other question. Yes, sir.
For those of us interested in affecting change or getting involved in making a difference in economic development, what would be your advice with regards to how we balance the decision to get involved with the government side, the multilateral side, nonprofit side, or the private sector? How should we think about those trade-offs?
I think you can have a good career and a good contribution in any one of those four. I don't think that it's essential that if you're interested in economic development that you need to be out of business. I think that you can be in business and still have an influence. I think you can have an influence in the UN. I think you can have an influence in the World Bank. I think you can have an influence in other international agencies. I think the important thing, if I were to give advice to my own kids if they were of an age, is that I would try very hard to have them go take a look and spend a year and at least learn something about Asia. If my kids had come to me and said they wanted to go study in Oxford or in the Sorbonne, I would be vigorous in suggesting to them that they go to China or India. Vigorous. And so I think that your generation, although this is a slightly older group than an undergraduate group, but there's still an opportunity to understand that the world that you're going to live in is a very different world than I grew up in. And I don't think there have been an adequate series of changes made in our educational system or in the aspirations of young people to recognize that it's a very different world when you're talking about 65% of global GDP being outside the OECD countries. And it's a very different world when China and India together have 50% of the global GDP. And when 2/3 of the middle class are in those countries, and alone 1 billion in China. That's a different world. And I fear that our educational system, although I know nothing about the Stanford system, so I'm not making any comment, but I do know something about some other places. I fear that our educational system is not caught up to the realities. And what is fascinating to me is how the realities of the composition of students and graduate students in our universities is reflecting the change that I've described, which is that there are many more Chinese, Indians, Asians studying to the benefit of the entire community. The same is not true in reverse. And I think it's a damn shame. And hopefully there will be a growing tide of people that can understand that learning about Chinese culture and Indian culture and Asian culture is not going backwards. It is discovering something which is enormously rich, profound, and important, and has to be part of the balance of people's lives. Thanks very much.